The past few days have been pretty wild to say the least. We've had Bam Adebayo dropping 83 points in a single game. We've got the official White House Twitter account dropping edits on the bombs and missiles that they're dropping in the Middle East. But the wildest thing of all has to be Team USA almost getting eliminated from the World Baseball Classic during pool play. The tournament as a whole has been crazy, and with the final taking place later today, here's everything that happened during pool play at the 2026 World Baseball Classic. Now, before I get started, I know this video is really late and the tournament is coming to an end today, but I still wanted to cover the pool stage before this tournament officially ended. I'll have another video covering the knockout rounds up soon, so stay tuned for that. Starting off with Pool A, which consisted of Panama, Colombia, Cuba, Puerto Rico, and Canada. These 5 Latin American countries were all pretty close on paper heading into this tournament. And for those of you saying Canada isn't a Latin American country, they are now after Bad Bunny's Super Bowl performance. Canada! Canada! Pool A started with a 3-1 win for Cuba against Panama. And then hosts Puerto Rico played Colombia later in the day and they won 5-0. But Puerto Rico's biggest export and global icon, Bad Bunny, wasn't there in person to watch his country's win, since he's on tour in Japan right now. He did get the chance to watch Shohei Ohtani put on a show during the match between Japan and Chinese Taipei though, and he was still repping Puerto Rico, even on the other side of the world. But the story of Pool A has to be Team Canada, which finished with 3 wins against Colombia, Puerto Rico, and Cuba, and 1 loss to Panama. The Canadians have a pretty decent squad, led by Josh and Bo Naylor, and the number 42 overall prospect in baseball, Owen Casey. But they're doing this without their best player, Freddie Freeman, who pulled out of the tournament before it began due to personal reasons. But that didn't stop them from scoring 21 runs during pool play, which helped them top the group over Puerto Rico, which finished with a 3-1 record as well. But Canada had a +11 run differential. So Pool A finished with Canada 1st, Puerto Rico 2nd, Cuba 3rd, Colombia 4th, and Panama 5th, with Canada and Puerto Rico both advancing to the quarterfinals. Now on to Pool B, which consisted of the United States, Mexico, Great Britain, Brazil, and Italy. Before we go any further, you'll notice that there are some countries here that you wouldn't expect to play baseball much, like Italy, Great Britain, Brazil, Czechia, Israel, and the Netherlands. While most of those countries, like Italy, Great Britain, and Israel, are filled with Americans, but because of their heritage, they represent different countries. Team Italy is filled with guys that are Italian Americans. Great Britain has guys that have British heritage and guys that come from places like the Bahamas because of the British Empire. And Team Israel is made up of many Americans with Jewish heritage. Team Brazil has a few guys that grew up in the US, like Manny Ramirez's son, Lucas, but half their team consists of players of Japanese heritage. Brazil has the largest Japanese population outside of Japan, and you know how much the Japanese love their baseball. So it was only natural that this team would be filled with Brazilians of Japanese descent. The Netherlands team is another team primarily made up of players from outside the country. Since baseball is popular in Caribbean countries like Aruba and Curacao, which happen to be former Dutch colonies, the majority of this team is made up of players from both Aruba and Curacao, such as Kenley Jansen, Ozzie Albies, Xander Bogaerts, and Didi Gregorius. Czechia, on the other hand, well, I'll get to them later. But getting back to Pool B, all the noise before the tournament was about Team USA assembling the Avengers to potentially blow the competition away at the WBC. But things couldn't be further from that when they actually started playing. In the Americans' first game against Team Brazil, they had a big 15-5 win on paper, but the game was actually pretty close, and the US only led 8-5 heading into the 9th inning, before they blew the game wide open with a 7-run top of the 9th. But 2 home runs from 20-year-old Lucas Ramirez and Aaron Judge grounding into a double play against a high school senior actually kept the game close, in a matchup that many would have thought the Americans could win by mercy rule. Team USA's second game was against Great Britain, which was a much more comfortable match for them, ending in a 9-1 victory for the Americans. Tarek Skubal made his only appearance on the mound for Team USA at the WBC, throwing 41 pitches through 3 innings, giving up 2 hits against Nate Eaton, which included a home run on the first pitch of the game, and striking out 5 batters. Before the tournament started, Skubal said that he'd only make 1 appearance for Team USA at the WBC, which was kind of weird, but considering he's an upcoming free agent, makes some sense. But then after his start against Great Britain, he said things have changed, and that he was reconsidering only making 1 start. Then after all that, he finally came to the decision to stay with his original plan, and that he won't be taking part at the WBC again, but that he gained a level of respect for the tournament after thinking it was just an all-star game. Did this guy even watch the last WBC in 2023? That was one of the best sports tournaments that many people have seen, with a storybook ending between Ohtani and Mike Trout in the final. There's a reason why so many big-name American players wanted to play in the WBC this year after seeing how incredible the last World Baseball Classic was. This whole situation was just weird overall and created an unnecessary distraction for Team USA. But I mean, it clearly didn't affect them against the Brits, since they blew them away easily. Jazz Chisholm said that Team GB was planning on shocking the world before the WBC began. I guess by that he meant that he'd strike out 4 times in 4 at-bats against the Americans to earn himself a golden sombrero, because that is quite a shockingly terrible performance. As a Yankees fan, I love Jazz Chisholm, but man, the things this dude says are just ridiculous to say the least. And whenever this guy is on the mic and promises something, it literally never works out the way he believes, and he just sets himself up to be memed in the future. In their 3rd game, Team USA went up against Mexico in a tense and close match, with some beef between teammates and rivals. Specifically, Cal Raleigh denying Randy Arozarena's handshake before Randy's at-bat. This led to Randy cussing Cal Raleigh out in the press after the match, telling him to, and I quote here, "F off and go to hell," and that he can take his "good to see you" that Cal Raleigh said to Randy before his at-bat and shove it straight up his ass. Well, that Seattle Mariners clubhouse is going to be fun when the season starts. Outside of this slight disagreement, the game was actually pretty good. The US took a 5-0 lead in the bottom of the 3rd and looked to be in control of the game early on, courtesy of a 2-run dinger from Aaron Judge and a 3-run blast off Roman Anthony's bat, paired with Paul Skeens dealing on the mound. Skeens, the true American patriot, was practically unplayable during his start. He threw 60 pitches over 4 innings, 39 of which were strikes, and gave up 1 hit while striking out 7 batters and walking 1. He's truly one of the best pitchers in the world, and he's still only 23 years old, which means he could be doing this for Team USA for the next 15 years or so. Once Skeens came out of the game, Team Mexico started gaining some traction. They ambushed Matthew Boyd for 5 hits and 3 earned runs, including Jarren Duran teeing off for 2 home runs against him to cut the score to 5-3, which the Americans were able to see out and stop the momentum there in a predominantly pro-Mexico crowd at Daikin Park in Houston. As you'd imagine, social media was having some fun after the Americans beat the Mexicans. And so with 3 wins in 3 games during pool play, the US advanced to the quarterfinals. Or so their manager Mark DeRosa thought. That thinking almost cost them a spot in the quarterfinals, as they decided to change up the lineup and bring in some different pitchers during the match against Italy. That led to Team USA's B team, Team Italy, to get off to a 8-1 lead after 6 innings. Team USA made a valiant comeback effort late in the game though, scoring 6 straight runs, cutting the lead to 8-6 in the bottom of the 9th. Aaron Judge would come to the plate representing the tying run, but he unfortunately struck out and the US lost 8-6. This loss meant that the Americans didn't control their fate heading into the final day of pool play. Team USA advancing to the quarterfinals depended upon the match between Italy and Mexico. The US would advance if either Italy wins or Mexico beats Italy by scoring 5+ runs. Then the US would be eliminated if Mexico beat Italy by scoring 4 or fewer runs. Then there was a potential tiebreaker scenario as well. This scenario resulted in some very nervous times for Americans watching Italy versus Mexico. But all those nerves would be extinguished pretty quickly, with Italy eventually winning the game 9-1 and securing the first seed in Pool B, going 4-0. Vinny Pasquantino hit 3 home runs, becoming the first player in WBC history to have a 3-homer game. Mexico's loss meant they would be eliminated from the WBC, so Pool B ended with Italy first, United States second, Mexico third, Great Britain fourth, and Brazil last, with the United States and Italy advancing to the quarterfinals. And then there was Pool C, which had Japan, Korea, Chinese Taipei, Australia, and Czechia. Japan, which is the defending WBC champion, seemed like they would breeze through this group, which they did for the most part, except for games against Korea and Australia. Japan mercy ruled Chinese Taipei in their first game 13-0 after 7 innings, with a few celebrities watching on in the Tokyo Dome. Shohei Ohtani, who isn't pitching at the WBC this year, had a phenomenal game at the plate. He went 3 for 4 with 5 RBIs, hit a single, a double, and a grand slam to break the game wide open for Japan. He was only a triple shy of hitting for the cycle in his first game at the 2026 WBC. Things wouldn't go as smoothly in their second game, however, when they faced Korea. In what was possibly one of the best matches during pool play at this year's WBC, Japan and Korea went back and forth, neck and neck, band for band, during a thrilling encounter that wasn't decided until the final pitch of the game. Japan eventually pulled through with the win off the backs of Shohei Ohtani, Seiya Suzuki, and Masataka Yoshida, who combined for 6 hits, 8 RBI, and 4 home runs. A couple of big-time catches in the bottom of the 9th from center fielder Ukyo Shuto secured the 8-6 win for Japan and put them in good position to advance to the quarterfinals. Japan's third match was a very close one against Australia, in which they won 4-3. There wasn't a run scored until the top of the 6th when Australia took a 1-0 lead. Then in the bottom of the 7th and bottom of the 8th, Japan took control of the game, scoring 4 runs, before 2 solo home runs from Australia made it a 4-3 game in the top of the 9th, and a nervy ending for Team Japan, but it resulted in another win to move to 3-0 in Pool C. The last match for Japan in pool play was against Czechia, a team made up of guys that work full-time jobs, including a firefighter, teacher, real estate agent, and nuclear equipment operator. Czechia surprised everyone when they qualified for the WBC in 2023 and beat China 8-5 in pool play that year. They also scored at least 2 runs in their other pool play matches against Japan, Korea, and Australia. However, at this year's WBC, things didn't go too great for Czechia. They only scored 5 runs and allowed 39. They lost their first game 11-4 against Korea, then lost their second game 5-1 against Australia, before getting mercy ruled against Chinese Taipei after 7 innings in a 14-0 loss. Then in the match against Japan, Czechia played really well, holding Samurai Japan scoreless through 7 innings. Starting pitcher Andrei Satoria, who's a full-time electrician and was pitching in his final match for Czechia, threw 4.2 innings, giving up 6 hits, no runs, no walks, and struck out 3 batters. In his first start at the 2026 WBC against Australia, Satoria pitched 3.2 innings and gave up 1 hit, while walking 1 batter and striking out 3. Satoria famously struck out Shohei Ohtani in the 2023 WBC on 3 pitches, but didn't get the chance to face him again this year, as Shohei was rested for this final game. Satoria retires from Czechia baseball having pitched 12 innings at the WBC, giving up 13 hits, 3 earned runs, no home runs, 3 walks, 10 strikeouts, and a 2.25 ERA. He's still only 29, but says he's retiring to spend more time with his family, not because he loves being an electrician more than striking out the greatest player in baseball history. Czechia would go on to give up 9 runs in the bottom of the 8th, which included an RBI double from Kenya Wakatsuki, a 3-run homer from Ukyo Shuto, a bases-loaded walk to Shugo Maki, and a grand slam from Munetaka Murakami. Japan would win the game 9-0, and Czechia would get relegated from the WBC after finishing 0-4 in Pool C. So Pool C would end up with Japan on top at 4-0, Korea, Australia, and Chinese Taipei all with the same records at 2-2, which came down to a runs allowed per defensive out tiebreaker, which Korea held the advantage in, so they finished second. Australia finished in third due to their own tiebreaker, which was earned runs allowed per defensive out. Chinese Taipei finished in fourth, and Czechia finished last. Now onto the final group, Pool D. The countries in Pool D included the Dominican Republic, Israel, the Netherlands, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. I'm not even gonna lie, the Dominican Republic is by far the most fun and exciting team to watch at the WBC this year. The excitement and celebrations from the players after big plays on both offense and defense is so great to watch. These guys pimp their home runs and don't care how anyone feels about it. Their fans are loud, passionate, and bring a great atmosphere to this tournament. They finished pool play scoring a tournament-high 41 runs and only allowed 10. I guess scoring that many runs makes sense when your lineup consists of a bunch of all-star big power hitters like Juan Soto, Ketel Marte, Fernando Tatis Jr., Vladdy Guerrero Jr., and Junior Caminero, to name a few. Also, shout out Austin Wells for being on this team too. Before the squads were announced, I had no idea he was half Dominican. The guy just looks straight up white. But he's been having fun on this team so far, and for the time being, he's going to be known as Austin Pozos. In their first game, the Dominicans faced Nicaragua, who kept the game close with the score at 3-3 after 5 innings, before the DR decided to blow things wide open. They scored 9 runs over the next 3 innings to win the game 12-3. They then breezed past their next 2 opponents, beating the Netherlands 12-1 and Israel 10-1. They hit 6 home runs over those 2 games, including Fernando Tatis Jr.'s grand slam against Israel. Also, take a look at this tweet that came out during the game against Israel. El jonrón de Tatis llegando a Tel Aviv, which means Tatis' home run arriving in Tel Aviv. Man, Twitter's a fun place. Those 3 big wins set up an epic final match in Pool D between the Dominican Republic and Venezuela, who were also 3-0 after their first 3 matches. The Venezuelans came in with a pretty good roster of their own, including the likes of Luis Ariz, Michael Garcia, Jackson Churio, and led by their best player Ronald Acuna Jr. Venezuela beat the Netherlands 6-2 in their first game, then won against Israel 11-3 and defeated Nicaragua 4-0 for their 3rd win. The match between the Dominicans and Venezuelans was a very close and entertaining one, with the Dominican Republic leading 4-3 after 3 innings. Juan Soto opened the scoring in the top of the first with a 2-run homer to center field. Then Wilson Contreras hit an RBI single in the bottom of the first to cut the score to 2-1, before Ketel Marte and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. would hit a pair of solo home runs to bring the Dominicans' lead up to 4-1. An RBI double from Michael Garcia, who had 4 hits and 2 stolen bases in this game by the way, and another RBI double from Luis Ariz would bring the score to 4-3 after the 3rd inning. Then in the top of the 4th, Fernando Tatis Jr. would come up with a massive 3-run shot to left field to give the Dominicans a crucial 7-3 lead. They'd hold on to that lead until the bottom of the 9th when their pitchers ran into some trouble trying to close the game out. Abner Uribe walked 3 batters and recorded no outs, before getting hooked for Elvis Alvarado. Luis Ariz would hit a sacrifice fly to cut the lead to 7-4, and then Wilson Contreras hit into a force out that led to a throwing error from Elvis Alvarado, which scored a run to make it a 7-5 game. There were runners on 1st and 3rd with 1 out for Salvador Perez, who's been one of the best home run hitters in the past decade in the MLB, and a chance to walk it off in the bottom of the 9th. But he grounded into a game-ending double play that secured the 4th win for the Dominican Republic.
Double play!
So Pool D ended with the Dominican Republic finishing first with a 4-0 record, Venezuela second at 3-1, Israel third, the Netherlands 4th, and Nicaragua last. So there you have it. That was everything that happened during pool play at the 2026 WBC. If you've made it to the end of this video, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like and comment your thoughts on the WBC so far. I'd love to see what you guys think about this year's World Baseball Classic and who you think is going to win it all. But that's all from me for now. I'll see you all later.